Hey, we are live and also not live here at Wordcamp Orange County 2016, and we are lucky enough to have with us David Margowsky.
It's really easy. Margowsky. Margowsky.
Margowsky.
Exactly.
Okay, don't read it, just pronounce it. You'll be fine. Dave is the organizer, the lead organizer for Wordcamp Orange County, and you have been the lead organizer for how many years?
This is my second year, so 2 years.
So now you are tapping out, as they say.
Yes, yep. The foundation would like us to rotate these out every 2 years now so that the same person isn't doing the lead organization. I will hopefully be on the team again next year, but yeah.
So they're not kicking you out totally.
No.
They're just like, you just can't be in charge all the time,
No,
control freak.
And it has nothing to do with any kind of performance issues or bad reports or anything like that.
Okay,
Just
he
funny.
wants you to know
Yeah.
there are no performance issues, just so you know.
None.
Okay, none. Okay, so about this organizing thing. So you're a jolly fellow in general, as people might say. I haven't seen you in any very stressful situations. I would say this is a fairly stressful situation. I've talked with a lot of other organizers at other camps who are just like, ugh, but you never seem to have that vibe. Why not? What's your secret, and how much does it cost?
I think it's having always a blank smile on my face tends to make people think that everything's going fine, and a lot of alcohol. Although not at the event.
After and before.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Good. Yeah. No alcohol at the event.
Honestly,
so
the real answer is I have a really big team. I purposely stocked my team with folks who had either done it before or who are very capable. So most of what I do is just kind of wrangle people as opposed to having to deal with all the work myself. So if the camp is good, I always say it's because my team is good, and if the camp is bad, it's my fault.
I just want to blame you anyway. So
Yeah,
this is all just okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So in comparing, first of all, why did you did it last year? So why did you agree or volunteer even, not just agree, but offer to do it again this year?
Well, it was a really good experience last year, but it's kind of funny because right after a WordCamp, after you organize one, you kind of go, yeah, never again. I'm not doing this again. There's just so much. And then there's this period of forgetfulness that kind of washes over you, and you go, yeah, oh yeah, we could do that again. And you kind of want to see, can I be better than I was last year? Can we fix maybe like the one thing that wasn't perfect and try and do something that's going to be good? And of course, it's mostly for the community. I mean, you want to have the event for your area. So
I was gonna say it's kind of like having a baby. I've heard is that you like forget it and then you're like you want another one right away.
I cannot speak to that. I purposely do not have children, so I do have a dog. And
you have a WordCamp.
And I have a WordCamp.
A bustling WordCamp. This is actually one of the older WordCamps. WordCamp Orange County has been going on for a long time. Originally organized by Pixel Jar.
Yes.
Do you know some of the history of WordCamp OC, or how long have you been involved at any level?
I started, I want to say 4 years ago, and it was one of those things that it came up as an event, and I went, oh, that sounds like a cool opportunity to give back. So I was a volunteer for my first WordCamp, and yeah, for 4 years now I've been involved with them, and you know, Pixel Jar is on my team. I mean, Jeff and Brandon and Robert, who's 9 Studios. All 3 of them are on my organizing team, so it's like, okay, they did it for 5 years with just the 3 of them, so I feel like I'm in pretty safe bet that if, you know, worst case scenario, I just make them do everything. So yeah, 4 years for me. I know a little bit about the history. I know it was one of the first camps, along with like San Francisco and LA, to come into being, and I think it kind of set the tone for a lot of what WordCamps currently are, and so yeah. I'm excited to be a part of it. And when they first conned me into it last year, I said, well, I'll do it, but only if you guys will be on the team. So
stock the team with talent and then give them all the credit.
Absolutely.
These are top secret tips coming to you from Dave. You mentioned the community, and everyone talks about the community in terms of WordPress. It's pretty much the underlying answer that everyone gives. So tell me a little bit about your experience coming into the WordPress community.
Oh, sure. I actually come from a really traditional print design background. I was a graphic designer for years and years, And I went into business for myself about 4 years ago. And right away, I realized that print design wasn't something that most folks were looking for, but WordPress was something that came up immediately. So I just started getting involved with my local meetup, and I fell in with some bad people. Steve Zanget and Zeke Interactive.
Oh, that OC crew.
Yeah, the OC crew. So he runs, the meetup out of his office, as you well know. And it was just such an amazing, change of life kind of event for me, because I had never seen a place that was so open and here's the information, and yes, we'll tell you how to do all of this. That it was so refreshing, and it really did change my life as far as my business life. And ever since then, it was kind of this is a no-brainer. It's really obvious that you need to find your way to give back to that community. So since I'm not a developer and I don't actually do design, I'm actually working as a project manager for WordPress-based projects. It's a good way for me to be able to manage a big project and be a part of it.
So what are some of the challenges, both last year and this year, that you have faced as the lead organizer for organizing a WordCamp?
Last year, I think that the biggest challenge is one of experience. It was just kind of seeing, okay, I know how everything's supposed to go together, but until you actually see it, you're not 100%. You're not, oh, okay, it did. It went all together. So that was last year's. This year, we actually had a couple of issues, the biggest of which was we had a venue shift. We were originally going to go with the original venue that we had been using for the last couple of years because it was a good space, and it had all the features that we needed, and it was very close to our after party. But we ran into some problems with the county and some delays in time that put the date in jeopardy. So instead what we did was we looked around for a new venue, and we, thanks to Steve actually, we lucked into the...
About to do a cameo.
Yo, photo bomb.
Zeke and the bomb back.
So once we walked into this place and saw what's going on in that main room, we were like, okay, this should work. This could work. And then we just sort of kind of built around the venue, and I think it's worked out very well.
So as opposed to just this year, in general, what are some of the hardest parts of that wrangling of people that you were mentioning? So you're a people wrangler mostly, and you've got a great team. Managing people isn't always easy either.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is knowing who your folks are. Play to their strengths. The hardest parts for me, just as sitting back and watching how things go, sponsorships is particularly difficult. Speakers, choosing the right speakers, not choosing some speakers, those tend to be the hardest choices. And then everything else I think is relatively easy. There's certain day ofs things that happen, rolling with the punches, having a backup plan for things. We had a speaker who missed their flight.
Oh, wow.
And so we had to do a quick change, but I had some speakers that I had asked to be backups for myself. So we popped them
backups.
in. Yeah,
backups. That's a good philosophy for all tech. Even in organizing tech conference, you backed up your speakers. That's actually pretty great. Tell me a little bit more about that speaker selection process. You have a team of people who do the speaker selection? Is it one person? Is it everybody?
It's not everybody, especially when you have a 10-man team. I think that would be...
Or woman.
Right.
Person.
Yes. That would be too many cooks. Yeah, you should Google that. Too many cooks. But we try to have a blind process first, so that people aren't looking at names and aren't looking at URLs and that kind of stuff. They're just looking at what the content of the talk is and the title of the talk, and then we go through that process. And then once we've kind of created a starting list, then we'll start slotting based on what we need as far as balancing design versus development versus business versus beginner. And then we'll also, because of the venue change, this venue actually kind of helped us build out what we were going to put where, by trying to have more of a general talk in a certain area, and then having more specific talks in some of the smaller areas. So
You kind of used the venue as your guide for that.
We did, absolutely.
That's smart.
Thanks.
Good job.
Yeah, hey, thanks.
Yeah. So what about that balance that you're talking about? So, WordCamps vary a lot, I guess I could say.
Very often.
They're very varied. In terms of the focus that they have, some get more developer-y, some get more designy, some are very businessy, as we've seen as kind of been trending in the past couple of years. What are your thoughts on that, striking the right balance, and just, what do you feel is the most important aspect of the speaker conversation, I guess?
Okay, so honestly, for the way I've run it, and I'm not saying it's the right way, but just the way we've done for Orange County is to really focus on that balance and having something for everyone, ideally at each time period, so that they can kind of follow their own track. But we tend not to build down like a track, like sit in this room and learn this all day long. And not that that's a bad way to go, but we try to have something for each of those groups at every time period. We don't always succeed, and something that we think might be for a specific group may not resonate as we expect it to, but that's the goal, is to really keep those things in balance so that everybody's got something to do.
Do you see in the attendee list, obviously you review that as well, who's coming, who's not, what kind of a similar balance in terms of who is attending, developers, designers, newbies, users? Like, are you familiar with, do you get that information when you're taking it in, and does that help you or inform the speaker selection at all? Or what do you feel about the attendee balance rate?
We usually...
Balance rate? Sure.
I knew what you mean.
Yeah.
I got it.
You get it. The gist.
We usually have speaker selection going on before tickets are completely sold. So I would say it does not influence the way the speakers are selected. And I would also say that outside of, the circle and hopefully the ever-growing circle of people who I know, not too many folks can self-identify just based on their registration. But that would be a great thing to do, is maybe sell tickets first and have people kind of identify what kind of tracks they would like to see. There you go.
Next year, tips for the future. Yeah. And so in terms of the, your timing out, your terming out, I guess, on that, how do you hope to continue to be involved in the future, or what do you see as the future of WordCamps? What are you going to be doing? What are WordCamps going to be doing? What do you think is happening in the future, WordCamp-wise?
That's a great question. I think we're going to see a little more of the same. I think we're going to see, of course, topic drifts into new areas, as they always do, which is great. I hope to be on the team next year. I have under good advisement of someone who may be asking to be the lead organizer, Steve Zanget, for next year. So I might be on his team if he asks me nicely.
And bribes
and
appropriately.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Given.
Yeah.
So about that topic selection, and this is kind of drifting back. Have you seen a lot of changes? You've been working on this team for 4 years. Have you seen, besides technology changes, like obviously maybe more JavaScript now, et cetera, have you seen a drift in terms of topic, in terms of less of your standard, here's WordPress 101, that type of thing? What changes have you seen in terms of topics that have been not necessarily what you've chosen, but what is being offered or submitted?
Sure. I mean, I think that there are some big topics that have come to the forefront. REST API, huge. JavaScript, huge. As far as like beginners, what we try to do is to not have that standard, like you're saying, 101, here are your themes, here are your plugins. Here, we tried this year at least to mix it up so that we had something that was going to give someone the beginning information that they needed, but maybe do it in a different way. So our beginning track wasn't actually identified as a specific track, and I think it worked out. I don't know.
You'll know later after the results are in, surveys are in, and everyone's like, no, there were not enough beginner stuff.
Exactly.
During the day of, do you get a lot of feedback from people?
I do. It's mostly positive on the day. It's rare that someone's going to walk up and tell you, oh, you've done a horrible job. For me, the day of is a lot about trying to like just look around a little bit and capture what has gone on and see that everything's, nobody's crying, everybody's happy. And then it's dealing with little fires, minor things. It can be anything like the sign won't stay up to, these doors lock, which, we had. And then just kind of focusing, dealing with that issue, and then moving on to the next thing.
So speaking of moving on to the next thing, over the next year, what are you most excited about in WordPress in terms of the code, or in terms of what's offered in the WordPress core, or just even in terms of, are you going to WordCamp US? Like, what's coming up for you in the next year in the WordPress world that you're excited about?
Wow, really hard. From my standpoint, I think the most exciting thing has got to be the REST API, but not so much from work that I'm doing, but from work that I'm directing and people's excitement about that work. So some of the folks who I project manage for are going to be doing some stuff that I think is going to really blow some minds and be cool. So that's the most exciting thing for me. I am not going to WordCamp US. It is something I'd like to do, and I'm kind of bummed because I think it's also in Philadelphia this year. Is that so? There, and that's the last year that I'll be there. It would be a nice venue to see. I think I'm going to hit LA, Vegas, and maybe Arizona. We're talking about it. So Phoenix, WordCamp Phoenix.
Cool. So the REST API and some WordCamps up for you, and maybe being on a team if Steve is feeling desperate. No, just kidding. All right. Thank you so much for taking some time out. We appreciate it. Bye, Facebook, and also bye on the web series. We'll see you later.